Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome to the office hours, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, I still have the residual BS from the COVID booster shot that I took a couple days ago or yesterday. So I'm still a little iffy, but that's just leaves you know. So let's get to the office, shall we? Hello and welcome to the office hours. This is a live stream that I do on Thursdays where we talk about Star Citizen news, lore, a bunch of other stuff as well. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. But this is a live stream, so this is not going to be a curated content. It's more of a sit back, grab something to drink. Maybe you're working, maybe you're walking the dog, maybe you're just need something in the background while you're playing the game. That's what I'm here for. My name is Paul. This is the AstroPub. I'm your space bartender at the AstroPub, your professor on the Astro Historian, and your facilitator at the captain's table. Welcome. How y'all doing? Taco Bell Telly Kelly. Listen, I haven't had Taco Bell in like 2 weeks, and I have it for lunch. And when X says, hey, you want to come on and talk? And the info runners, I'm like, sure. But I hadn't finished it, so I was just going to eat the damn thing while I was live. Go to sleep, Igor. I'm not going to be very long. It'll be live tomorrow. It'll be available for you to watch tomorrow. So, I have taken the last week off. I've enjoyed it immensely. And I'm going to be taking the rest of this week off mostly, though my birthday is Saturday is when I'm turning 36, so I'm still pretty young. But yeah, we'll be doing a captain's table then, but that's about it. No streams tomorrow, no streams on Sunday, and then next week we'll be getting back to regular streaming schedule. So. How y'all doing? Welcome, C. McD, Joey, 4/4, Darionator, Jaybird Max, Impasta. How y'all doing? I haven't updated. I updated it. Maybe it's the wrong one, I think. Man's up the other one. Hey, thank you, UK dude, for that for cheering. Give those that 1,000 biddies. Hey, Hedor. Haldor. Ugh. UK dude, thank you for that 26 months of support. Happy New Year as well. I guess this is the new stream of the new year. So what little time I was able to do, to finish up a tank. For those of you who don't know, I do miniature painting and such. So I finished up a tank, which I will show here right now. Just a good old-fashioned Lehman Russ. This is the Vanquisher, though. Just a dumbass. Doing that. Obviously, it's pulled out, but hey, that $20, Randy.
Randy, super chatted $20. Happy birthday, Eve.
Ooh. Thank you, Northern Trooper, for coming and following us. But thank you, Randy, for that $20 super chat. Lehman Rust, yes. lemon Russ. And then also started finally working on my Cadia Stands box. The best thing about the new guard stuff is that it's entirely modular. The only thing I had to figure out how to make modular was the gun, which I just kind of put some magnets in the bottom of the little struts and then put them in the very, very bottom here. So now I can effectively change those out whenever I want to. And this front, like, shield, you can just pop off and pop back on pretty easily. This little shield right here. But, so I finished that one off. Now I gotta do the Sentinel, and then I've got all of the troops I gotta do. That's the classic Russ, yeah. That's the regular Russ with a Vanquisher turret on it, so. Char-B ones. As always, they have the weird World War I, World War II inspired tanks. Paul, not Redeemer Shell. Fucking hate execute. LVO this year? No, I am not a professional player by any means, nor am I a professional painter. So, but no, I'm not going to go to the Las Vegas Open. I can barely swing, regular conventions, but I'd love to go. Did I paint the Neb version? The new version? New version of the Russ? I have one of those, yeah. Well, Paul, I'm thinking about the about it. What are your talking? Are you taking suggestions for topics for the captain's table? Yeah, if you have any ideas. Yeah, you have 7 so far, Haldor. Woof. Yeah, I've got 2 bespoke demolisher commanders, which I'm probably going to try to sell. Plus, I have 2 bespoke regular old cannon ones that I'm going to sell. Just because it's like, those were remnants. They're not bad. They're just remnants of when I was very new and I didn't know how to magnetize and stuff like that. So, one of those would be nice just to kind of allow me to kind of re-go from there. Plus, I'm going to get rid of a lot of my older ones, sell a lot of my older ones. So I can do my newer, the newer guard, because they look cooler. Not all of them, but... Oh, the rockets. I haven't painted the rockets versions, no. But because this is modular, I wanted to make it modular because... There we go. Shield comes right off. I want to make it modular just in case it was not the best version in the future. So my plan is to make it, if I wanted to, if I had time to end up making, the best part about this is that it actually is, to make it more of a artillery piece rather than an anti-aircraft or anti-tank gun. It's supposed to be a artillery piece. But to go back and do those eventually if I need to. The new Sentinels look great. Got a comment right off the bat. I've been meaning to catch up at your live explain concerning parachutes. Fall arrest equipment is specific PPE worn by people in construction to stop falling. True, but that's more to, those are more like arresting equipment for accidents. Yeah, modularity, effectively. Yes, modularity confirmed. It would have to be. I mean, it's also the 30th century, so saying fall rest equipment it makes a little bit more sense, because fall arrest equipment would be follows along with the with what it is actually doing. Is it's not stopping you from falling, it's just slowing you from falling. All right, think about the roles of various ships in Star Citizen in purely PvE manner. So a Javelin basically acting as a battleship, the biggest ship with the biggest guns players have, for instance, is going to down a PvP equivalent of a destroyer. Yeah. Sort of breakdown analysis of larger PvP battles, ships and tactics. I could talk with some of the other some of the creators I know who do more PvP stuff and maybe ask them. So. Fake hit sounds cool. Yeah, also, yes. Is my volume low? Shouldn't be. This week it's going to be Naz and Darionator are going to be on the captain's table. We'll be talking about expectations for 2023. I mean, I'm going to make it, I think I made it clear last time, but I'll make it clear again. Like, I don't think this year is going to be a dead year, despite what clickbait titles may tell you in the future. Simply because there's a lot of stuff left open for CIG to improve and add to the game without server meshing. There are some things that I think Chris has made clear that they need server meshing to function, like better AI and more AI. But a lot of the stuff that you would think that is kind of limited by persistence or PES is stuff that is available. A lot of the stuff is going to be limited by PES instead. And PES should be fully up and running by the end of the year. Essentially a backpack belt worn for personal landing bubble. Yeah, I mean, my thought was, like, there's the Gravlev. You could use Gravlev, like a Grav chute. You could use something that's like a, like an emergency burn that has, like, thrusters that burn only once to prevent you, like, as you get close to the ground, it just kind of does a suicide burn and kind of goes, and kind of stop. You could do, like, a bubble that you use. Effectively, the idea is that you have a piece of equipment, like a parachute, that saves you from ejecting in a planet with gravity. I really want to print a Sentinel and stick arms on it to give it Calgovase Riptide proxy. Love me some auxiliary proxies. I love those too. Though I'm tired of seeing so many Guavase stuff. I'm part of the the Tau Discord or the Tau Reddit. I'd rather see like some of their, some of the other units, some of the other aliens, because the Tau in 40K are very much like the Covenant, but good. So, like, but benevolent instead of hostile. But like, you just have, it would be like if you were playing Halo and the only thing you ever fought was the elites. Ever. Like no grunts, no jackals, no engineers, no brutes, no hunters. Good, but no one's good in the 40K universe, but. I do something like a Starship Trooper suicide burn on the bounce type arrestor. Yeah. Question: what ship concept do you think could come next? Not favorite. Not favorite. Should, in my humble opinion, Perseus. Needs to stop A2 ramming JT. Perseus needs to deal with it. Any jump Novus on top. Perseus. Perseus is a good option. I think the what should happen honestly is like with our current situation, not with no new stuff. The frickin' X1, because the X1 is a simple, easy thing to fix. It's a hover bike. We have 15 of them now. It's done by it would take them like 2 months to do. They already have the design language for it. They even have the 400i. Just get that shit done. Like that's one of those things that I'm going to continually point to and say, CIG, you have easy wins that you're refusing to take. Why the fuck are you refusing to take these? The Ranger, at least I understand. I understand why the Ranger is taking longer, because they've never done a motorcycle. So there's balance issues and stuff like that. I definitely love the Ranger, but should the X1 in terms of not even just in terms of gameplay, just in terms of like, it should have been done a while ago. There's a great modeler that's been doing Species' most recent giant four-armed insectoid crisis suits proxy. Looks beautiful. Nice. Will actually be next. A space moped, yeah. I mean, the Lynx is a little bit different. Like, it's supposed to be a luxury variant, so I'm sure there's like some internals that have to change up for it. It wouldn't be that bad, but the X1, the Lynx was never sold separately, I believe. I think it was only sold with a ship. The X1 was sold as a standalone vessel. Like, you'd buy the X1. It didn't come packaged with anything. Well, the next delays. You're not wrong. Feel free to ask lore questions, so I'm here too. There was also another one up here I saw. From a lore standpoint, how have we had no gang names from Pyro? We actually do. There's just a couple of them that I don't quite know, and they're probably more than we know. We know right now there's the Overlords, there's Xenothreat, and there's the Fire Rats. There's one or two more that I've heard of, but I didn't write down. I don't remember exactly what they are. I'd have to go back and look at them that have been mentioned. And there's a couple of other past gangs which existed, which have been mentioned, but we haven't. Like, we don't know if they're still around. And we may have some of the classic ones like the Nova Riders, the Dusters. They may exist as well. Overlords or Vigilantes, yeah. Oh, and the people for the UEE Pyro, Citizens for Pyro is a gang too. Sorry if this is not a lore Q&A. Just got here. I was curious if there was any information on how Crusader Industries constructed and installed the city of Orison. So Crusader did not build it. The UEE military built it. They built what's called Providence Platform. And the way it supposedly works is it's built with internal rockets, effectively, or engines, which periodically burn to keep it afloat. But the reason why, at least the in-lore reason why why Orison works, is that Crusader is actually a low mass gas giant. And its upper atmosphere was naturally had oxygen and hydrogen, breathable atmosphere. So in theory, what you're actually seeing is Orison is actually orbiting, but because of the unique nature of the mass, again, I don't know if this is correct or not, but this is based off of Star Citizen-like physics. It can sit just in the top layer of clouds and orbit the planet while doing station keeping burns to keep it up there, but actually technically still be in the upper atmosphere. Did Paul talk about the Polaris having a Squad 42 tag on the roadmap? That seems like a mistake. Based off of the time period upon which Squadron 42 takes place, the Polaris shouldn't exist. The Polaris doesn't exist until 2945, and we know that the story of Squadron 42 starts around this before the attack on Vega. So, and the Overlords are vigilantes, yes. Visit Orson, the city above the clouds. Yeah. Do you consider 318 a 2022 patch or 2023? 2023. It wasn't released in 2022. It was in PTU. CIG will call it the Q4 2022 patch, but I mean, it depends on when, if 319 is actually Q1. No problem, Spanko. What's the lore on the kinkier side of life? The 30th century BDSM lifestyle, red light districts. Where's Space Vegas? I want to know more of the wild side of life in the grim, dark, not far future. Yeah, that's grimish. There's nothing overt about that. I'd like to hear more about that because it kind of fleshes out the universe a little bit more. Spider is pretty seedy. Spider has Cathcart has Spider, which is a series of floating stations which are based off of old UNE and UPE mothballed ships that were taken over by pirates and turned into kind of this giant station. There are some pleasure world kind of things, like Ellis Green is pretty well known for that. I would say, generally speaking, most of the planets that have UEE military presence would have some sort of red light district, just based off of human nature and the history of humanity. Where you find soldiers is where you find prostitutes. That's just the nature of history. Just how those things tend to coincide. So, we do know that there are some humans that enjoy procreating, or not procreating, or engaging in activities with alien species, even though they may not be even compatible in any way, shape, or form. But I can't confirm this statement. It's just that it's a historical fact as far back as human history. That too, yeah. Human trafficking, also another thing. Will they move the date up to make up for how long it's been in development, or are you full-blown, your 442 character is no longer your Star Citizen character? No idea on that one. It doesn't exist officially, yeah. Perfect. I'm making a terrorist video that kidnaps a Hurston family member, needed the gang to attach to it. Tears, which is RP, don't ban me. If you're dealing with that, then you might want to deal with, like, there wouldn't be a Pyro video. There is a group that is called, I can't remember the name of them, but there's a group of extremists who are on Pyro or on Hurston who actually have done things like hijacked vehicles and thrown the pilots out of the vehicles to try to make their demands known. They're like I used to call them the United Workers Union of Hurston, UWU, but it's something like that. Seems to have set Squadron 42 set before Star Citizen, since now we all know the outcome. Not really. There's like they'll retcon a bunch of stuff when that happens. Like they already have the lore for it. CIG is very, well, under this way. The events of Squadron 42, the first version, are not at all world shaping. You're not Commander Shepard. You are not the Master Chief. You are a lieutenant in the UAE military. You go where you're told, you're fighting battles where you're supposed to fight them, and that's that. So if you're thinking about saving the universe from alien scum and being hailed for it, too fucking bad. You are just a soldier. That is the story of Squadron 42. Is there a good way to tell what ships are actually modular and not just variants? Battle upgrade kits are shelved? Not really. CIG has basically said any kind of modularity, they could do any ships with modularity if they wanted to. But the honest to God answer of what is modular is CIG sold modular kits for it, or have they explicitly said that it's going to be modular? So for instance, the Caterpillar we know is going to be modular, but they haven't sold specific kits for it. So we don't know how or when that's going to happen. The Retaliator, they have sold kits for it. And the same with now the Galaxy, and of course the Endeavor. So these ships are all ships they've sold kits for, so they are definitely modular. And then there are some kits which were modular, and then they've kind of walked back on that, which is like the Vanguards, which they were supposed to be modular, and then they've kind of pulled back on that option. So there's an adult club of some sort in Area 18 right next to the Banu Embassy, probably. Don't kink shame me and my burb wife. I'd love to be some kind of open panel where AstroPub debates overconfident college students. Man, I wish. You can replace your Redeemer with any. You can replace your Redeemer with any ship currently flyable in concept or just hinted at. But that ship will keep the same restrictions as the Redeemer. What ship do you choose? Easy. At any price? Frickin' Cutlass Black, hands down. There are people today who are into that, which, if you're looking for an indicate diverse species, I know it's not that hard. The difference is that most creatures on the planet Earth have similar anatomy in some way, shape, or form, especially mammals. Even if it's not entirely the same, we're all from the same tree of life. Banu, Tavarin, and Xi'an are very different anatomy because they come from a very different evolutionary process. They may look, they are bipedal, but I think it's called convergent evolution. It's like things will probably, it wouldn't be surprised if you see bipedal humanoid creatures simply because efficiency of efficiencies, walking upright is an efficient way, grasping hands, thumbs, those sort of things are efficient for ways of surviving, sort of thing. Workers' Party? Yeah, it's some sort of workers' party. I can't remember the name of it, though. I'd love to read more about the cargo crisis and find that information. So that's the thing. There's nothing explicitly about the cargo crisis. There's just a bunch of things that have been referenced about the cargo crisis, which aren't, but they don't specifically have an article that says the cargo crisis. The cargo crisis is information that I first discovered it, is in the Jump Point article about the Idris. And then there's an article that talks about MISC, where you have the MISC stuff. Hey, who do we get rated by? Smashly! Welcome, Smashly. How you doing? Welcome everyone from Smashly Stream. How was your stream? We're gonna do more talking than playing for this one, but how was your experience with Daniel the Demon and I'm forgetting who else you dragged into this? So DJ Knight, right? It was a lot of fun. Always fun. Every stream that Smashly does is a fun one, so you should definitely do that one. They had a lot of fun. Nice. Daniel checked in the middle of a hangar. I still have something that haunts me. Smush, I've been playing this game for far too long. There was a battle during the last Ninetales lockdown where I was in the co-pilot of a Scorpius, and I was like, "Hey, I need to do something." And then I looked down and just ape-brain dumb, just hit the ejection, the ejection handle, and ejected both me and my partner out into space. It was like, whoops. In the middle of a battle, too. In the middle of a battle. What am I doing tomorrow night? I'm sleeping. That's my plan tomorrow. I'm not going to be going back to regular streaming until next week, but because my birthday is on Saturday. But these are the streams that people wait for and kind of come and hang out for. So, no, not that button. Thank you for 51 months there. Oh yeah, I remember. Happy birthday. Thank you. You're not old unless you remember jumping the buggy hangar. Oh, thank you. Happy birthday, old man. Yeah. I'm a ripe old age of 36. Which is old to some and young to others. So it's a good time to be alive. Let me go back and look at some of these other questions. We're just this is the office hours where we hang out and we talk about Star Citizen. If you want to know about Star Citizen lore, news, it's just kind of hang out and chill and talk about that sort of stuff. Normally we go over the news, which we'll go over a little bit before we go. But yeah, talking about how 2023 is going to be a better year than you think for a lot of good reasons. But yeah, Spiral, you're definitely looking for the the Jump Point article on the Idris and the Jump Point article on Misk. They both mention why these things exist. There's also the 600I, which was originally a cargo vessel. There's a lot of these little hints that there's something that went wrong, horribly, horribly wrong, at the end of the Mezzer era and the beginning of the new UEE in terms of lore. And it required, and pretty much all of the old ship manufacturers collapsed, except for Aegis, RSI, and Argo. So. What are days for time? What are the days and time for this sentence system? They use Earth Standard Days is the standard, even though I think some of them are. Like, I don't think we don't know the full rotation of the planets, but we do know that the planets rotate at different times. You're Ashley from Mass Effect in Squadron 42. Effectively, yeah. You're just there. I mean, you're not hanging out with Commander Shepard in Squadron 42. You're not even hanging out with him. You're just a dude with a gun. You're dude with gun. Redeemer's modular. John Cruz said that the hab was moved downstairs so it could be swapped out. But yeah, there's basically every ship is modular unless CIG says it's not, and every ship can be potentially modular. It's just one of those weird things. Man, I'd love to see an in-game political debate between Paul and old man Al Hurston using FOIP. No, that can't be because in lore or in fiction, Paul is the bartender for old man Al. Parallel evolutionary theory. Thank you, Fishy. That's what I was looking at. Thank you, Dano. Yeah, we were also talking about the fun parts of alien biology. '36 is an age of partially realized potential. The world is out there waiting for you, basically. Was there any news this week? There's a little bit of news. Not much, but there's a little bit of news. Warp storms, yes. Is there lore on why it's called an empire and no longer an emperor? There is still an emperor. There was actually never an emperor. There's always the imperator, which is a separate thing, but effectively an emperor. There is still an emperor. You just elect the emperor. The reason why it's still called an empire is because the UEE liked all of the power being centralized into a couple of different groups, but they didn't like the Mezzers who were currently running it. And so basically they partially reformed the empire because they originally wanted to, once they got rid of the Mezzers, they wanted to completely change the government to the name of the Democratic Stellar Union, or the DSM, or DSU, the Democratic Stellar Union, DSU. DSM's completely different. DSU, but that whole thing failed because the people who were in charge, who were like ingrained, the people who had survived the end of the Mezzer era were terrified that they'd lose a lot of power, because one of the things was to move the capital from Earth to Terra, and that whole thing got shot down because it was threatening. As the debate was going on about this reformation, there were riots in the streets between pro and anti-reformation groups, and the imperator at the time was concerned that the new imperator, who had just taken over from the Mezzers, she was concerned that it would lead to another civil war, and she didn't want a civil war. So she let the measure basically fail. But in the wake of that failure, the creation of the new political party, the third major political party of the UAE, the Transitionalist Party, was created. That's basically what the Transitionalists want. The Transits want to move the capital from Earth to Terra and kind of reform the government entirely to the Democratic Stellar Union. Are you going to start a new channel when Starfield comes out, or are you just going to split your time? I'm split my time. I'd have to split my time if I was doing a new channel anyways. So yeah, no, I'm going to do lore for Starfield, but I'll probably do that more like once or twice a month and kind of keep things up. I still have the original live streams on my YouTube channel. I occasionally go back and see how much lamp mode when they were getting pizza. Oh, yeah, I remember that. 36 is a new 6 years old. Let me play my play my gooms. Yes. But if we come from monkeys, how come there are still monkeys? Because monkey is eternal. We must return to monkey, Black. I don't know what you're talking about. Reject modernity. Return to monkey. Or as engineers say, say, anything is modular with the correct application of enough force. Yes. The opposite reason you don't call America an empire, even though it looks at it. It is. Yeah, it looks at notes. It is. But is there an immortal god emperor? No, there is no immortal god emperor. Question. There are multiple mentions of Starship Weeks of 133mm shipbuster railguns. But looking at them, the Bengal, there are the same size as a hammerhead. Is that typo? Is that really such a small caliber? I think it's a typo. I think it's based off of a sizing that was created well before the full understanding and the scope of what Star Citizen was going to be. And I think that was one of those cases of it sounded cool at the time or sounded believable based off of the size that they were going for. By the time we reached the scales that we understood the scale of Star Citizen properly, a Bengal is far bigger than anyone realized. Hey, Space Tomato. It's not a dead year. Changed my mind. Y'all should be following Smushly, Smashly, and Space Tomato, obviously. What's a 30th century artillery officer like? Probably as kinky as a 21st century artillery officer. I'm 38 this year. Hey, so you're only slightly older than me. Oh yeah, happy birthday, you're fellow Capricorn. I am. Much to my wife's dismay. she's a Gemini. She constantly tells me like you're such a Capricorn. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. The Pegasus is not gone, Velocity. The Pegasus has actually returned to its status to being in lore after being gone for about a year. I was surprised that when you could fit a 400i just above the Bengals runway. Yes, that's effectively just the kind of, those are the sort of things that you're going to see probably get changed and retconned with a lot of mea culpas from the lore team. Because like the shipbuster railgun in lore, at least, is supposed to be able to through and through, like front to back, through and through, like completely whole a cruiser. Which is like, we don't even know the size of a cruiser because we only have destroyers. So I feel like 318 is 2.5 patches in one. It kind of is, because it's a lot of what's in 318 is stuff that couldn't be added until PES was ready. But just because PES was being worked on didn't mean that the people who were working on the game stopped working. I know it was supposed to be the Idris size, but then the Idris was supposed to be the Polaris size. Now everyone went through puberty. Yes. It got the Manchester treatment, where it's apparently everything's bigger in Manchester.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Question: is there any info in the lore about the imperator line of succession? No, that would be kind of good to know. Though, based off of my understanding of how the government works in the UAE, it would likely be the High Secretary, then the High Advocate, and then the leader of the High Command, which is the series of generals. There's a general, admiral, and general, I believe. The head of the, they have specific names. It's, God, I can't remember that. It's Marinianus, Navianus, and Militaris, or something like that. They have titles as the head of each branch of the military. So probably the most senior officer in that, and then work their way down. So this is like the gun that punched the Donnie, basically, yeah. But there's like one of those. There's an array of those on a bangle. There's like 12 of them on the bangle. You'll see every time I see someone get absolutely just destroyed in one hit from the railgun on the bangle. I'm like, there's a reason why they call them shipbuster railguns, y'all. They will core an A2 in one hit. The retribution is like several of those stacked on top of it. There's compelling evidence that the Anvil is producing a larger ship for Star Citizen. There's a lot of compelling evidence that the Anvil is, but it makes sense. Really, when did the Pegasus get revived? In the end of last year, there was one of the last jump points. They mentioned the Pegasus in one of the lore posts. The Retribution is technically a dreadnought. Yeah, technically it's a dreadnought. Anvil capture will be what pushes me over to Wing Commander from Space Marshal. It's like an Aegis Railgun, and Aegis Railgun is tiny compared to the shipbusters on the Bengals. I'm not even joking. They don't even have a classification of the size of the frickin' railguns on the Bengals. It's probably like a size 20. I don't know. They are huge. You've seen them. If you've seen them fly past during like Invictus, just fly up to the very bottom of the ship. You've got this little spindly, kind of looks like an udder almost thing coming out the bottom of the Bengal. Those are the railguns. There's like 6 of them stuck in there. Technically, thing's damn big. Yeah. The size, you're dead. Size, nope. That's all it is. Hey, Ghost Cubby, how you doing? Almost said Chubby. Just shoot cutters through it. Yeah, it's the joke we used to make was that the shipbuster railgun is the railgun that shoots Auroras. Because it's about that size. It would fire an Aurora out of those cannons. Size hammerhead, yeah. It is basically like you slap a hammerhead. The array is like the size of a hammerhead, yeah. Cruisers. It can one-shot cruisers. Now, that's in lore. I'm assuming that means if it had no shields, it could one-shot it. But range, yes. Funny part is, you know who makes them? Bearing. The same company that makes the P4 and a lot of other guns. And Bearing is probably most well known for making washing machines and microwaves, which is hilarious. That the same company that makes washing machines and microwaves makes the fuck you ship buster gun. They're future GE. They're space GE is what they are. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They basically, and that's the reason why. For instance, the gun on the Crusader Ares is a bearing weapon. That's why they put the bearing weapon on the Crusader ship, which is basically a flying gun. Because CIG is not subtle. The Ares is just an A10. That's all it is. Which is why it's a bearing weapon, because it's the same thing as GE. And when I say CIG does the deep lore, I mean they do research for everything they do. it helps that the people like John Crew is a massive aviation nut. Obviously, Chris Roberts is. All of the people in the lore team are big history and like modern stuff, like all that kind of stuff. Thank you, Bodiga. All right, I'll be right back. So, as an American, what's the caliber of the shipbuster railgun in washing machines? Probably more like 20 washing machines. Probably not even that. Not even that. It's probably more like 100 washing machines caliber. Be right back. If you're watching this on YouTube, mute.
Good news, everyone! Good news, everyone! Good news, everyone! Weapons free, y'all.
Drugs.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Everybody and his dog calls himself out.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Drugs.
It was at this moment that he knew. It was at this moment he fucked up. He fucked up.
Everybody and his dog calls himself out.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Pegasus wins.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Weapons free, y'all.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Everybody and his dog calls himself out.
Drugs. Drugs.
Everybody and his dog calls
It was
himself
at this
out.
moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Drugs.
I'm flying. I'm pilot.
Pegasus wins.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Drugs.
Weapons free, y'all. Everybody and his dog calls himself out.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Bounty hunting is a complicated process.
Drugs. Drugs.
I'm back. I'm back. Enough of it. Enough of it. Done. My class is always unruly. Step out and it's completely madness. This is always what happens. This started once, and it's become a tradition. Where if it's a captain's table and I leave, or captain's table, if it's office hours and I leave to use the restroom or do something real quickly, the entire chat goes absolutely ham with the sound effects. Do the sound alerts work on emote only? Yeah, they should all work. Do my high school listeners listen as fast as us? No, they don't. You know, leave again. That was too fun. Hey, it's chat keeping things lively. That's all. The only thing that'll turn it off is if I turn it off manually. I forgot to mention. I should probably do that. Right now I have to turn off the manually turn off. Settings. I usually listen to Lord Phil's videos before bed, but today it's the stream. Nice. So yeah, effectively, I don't know what we were talking about before, but yeah, feel free to ask. I also, honestly, question. Thank you for teaching. Would you rather teach elementary, middle school, or high school? High school. I teach high school now. I never want to teach elementary or middle. Everyone I know who teaches elementary says they couldn't teach high school, and everyone I know who teach high school says they couldn't teach elementary. And both elementary and high school teachers both said they couldn't teach middle school, and middle school teachers are just like, yeah, we know. Middle school teachers are the heroes, are just absolute champions. Because elementary school, you get them when they're children. High school, you get them when they're teenagers. Middle school, you get them during that transition, and oh God, is that a chaotic transition. When they're like 6th graders, they're good. When they're 8th graders, they're not good, but they're better. And the 7th graders, the pinnacle of terrible. Literally, they are kind of monsters because there's a point in which in human development where your brain grows and you understand. This is just kind of a cool little side thing. Your brain will grow to a point where you are able to understand social cues and you learn a lot of you gain like empathy and stuff like that. Kids are very empathetic creatures. But once you reach a certain point, once you start going to adolescence, the part that has like empathy and like those sorts of emotions retracts. It actually kind of shrinks a little bit. And the part that has sexual, but self-actualization starts to grow further, starts to develop further. And it actually, so like kids, teenagers, young adults, so between the ages of like 12 and like 15, 16 years old, well, 18 years old, actually become like regress socially, which is why teenagers, we always think about, oh, it's hormones. It's like, no, it's literally their brains or the way they're developing. They become more self-centered because that's the point. You want to be able to have understanding who you are, what you believe in, those sorts of things. For our survival, it makes sense to be able to identify you versus other people and to understand the differences between those two. Yeah, because teens teachers, we joke, and this is just a joke. We call them psychopaths. Students are literally psychopaths because they're little psychopaths because they do not have that concept. Yeah, brains are rewiring up to 18, 20 years old. I believe 25 is when you start to see brains start to solidify to what they will be. But it's not always the case. How was Taco Bell not worth it? It was not worth it. Taco Bell's never worth it. You can straight up ask them why they did this dumb thing, and they genuinely don't know. They don't. They act on impulse, on actions. They're what is it? What is it called? Lizard brain kind of takes over more. It's not a joke at all. It's a joke in the sense that they're not actually psychopaths, and there's plenty. And the thing to remember is that generalizations like that, they're good to understand why things like this exist. But not every student, or I should say, not every child is going to go through the same experiences. Some of them will experience that earlier, some of them experience it later, some of them will have very mild effects onto that. It really depends on things like their environment, their like who are they around, their parents, their own kind of like learning conditions. Which is why you'll see some people you can't see how there are Taco Bells in Texas with so many options because there's all good Mexican places are not going to have, like, there's no good Mexican places that has drive-through. Pretty much everything that has drive-through or fast food versions are all pretty much like on par with Taco Bell. Hey, biggest of Litz. We're just talking about the I'm a teacher is my day job, so we're talking about child development. And also Taco Bell for some reason. No, it doesn't work either, Shimpasta. I'm getting Taco Bell. And Chipotle is even worse. Chipotle is bad. It's not good Mexican food in whatever shape or form. We have burritos in Star Citizen, just no tacos. The lack of self-preservation instinct being ND makes a teenager doing super dumb crap often happen a lot. Yeah. Yeah, but I want tacos. I got you. How's the PTU been running? I haven't played the latest version of the PTU. Though what I've heard is that it's slightly better. At least they seem to have fixed some of the issues with elevators, but. Hey, Celine, thanks for the raid. Ferret. There we go. Actually didn't do this earlier, so. How was your Star Citizen experience? Elevators are still deadly? Well, elevators are always deadly. The question is, did they fix some of the issues that they were having with elevators before? Regularly available Double Dogs 2. Society truly has progressed in Star Citizen. I bring ferrets and totally didn't just leave SPK full of bodies. Did you? I want torchies. Today was great for me. 8 hours plus played, 2 crashes. One of them I logged exactly where I crashed. Not bad. Not bad. Listen. The entire game can be delayed as long as I get my pizza. All right. Not a single. There could be not a single addition to Star Citizen this year If it's pizza, best year of Star Citizen ever. They add pizza to the game. I'm fighting anybody who disagrees with me. Invite to pizza party. I love pizza. It is my favorite food of all time and will always be because it is so versatile. You camped Corsair for for 3 hours, killed a lot of players. Imagine. Pizza is the superfood. Pizza's like sex. Even when it's bad, it's good. Yep. But if you have any questions, feel free. I'm going to go over a little bit of the news. We don't have tons of news, but we do have a little bit of the news. Specifically, we've got news about future lore releases, which is important because it actually tells us a little bit about what they're doing. And then also, this one was posted on the 2nd of January. So let's start with this one. So the question was, what does Chris's prediction account for? In the letter of the chairman, we have a 2023 Q4 prediction for static server meshing. What is this prediction accounting for? Does it assume that work gets going forward with minimal hiccups? Does it assume the work going forward with something that will happen that will require total reconcepting of server meshing? What happened with iCache? I know I'm asking how long a program will take to complete is like asking how long is a piece of string, but I'm managing to but I'm trying to manage my expectations here. Like if you said the predictions assume minimal hiccups, I would particularly be disheartened if Q4 rolls around and it's not quite there. If you assume, I would just assume this is the easiest or earliest possible date it would show up. All right, so this was Clive Johnson's response. Server meshing is very much a research and development project, and as such, it is not possible to accurately estimate how long it'll take. Chris's letter from the chairman carefully qualified the Q4 2023 date for static server meshing is something we are aiming for, but not guaranteed. I recommend viewing it in that light, as a target we're trying to hit. Intend to focus R&D effort rather than actual estimate of how much work is involved. My personal opinion is that the target, while ambitious, is not unreasonable, and should allow enough room for us to hit some moderate speed bumps along the way. But if we encounter too many unexpected problems, or enough of these problems can't be resolved quickly, then it will obviously impact the final delivery date. There we go. So, just in general, I've always said it's safer to assume that any date that Chris says is going to be wildly ambitious and not actually reasonable, because CIG seems to only give us their internal dates, which seems odd, but they 100% give us their internal dates. Do you feel this is optimistic, CIG? Again, or do you think they've taken some self-reflection to the process and projection, pragmatic in the past? I think it's a little bit of the both. CIG has hired actual project managers in the last couple of years, and I assume that they're learning a little bit from it. So I don't think the Q4 2023 is wildly ambitious. I do think it's ambitious for what they're going to have to take into account of outside of just development. Because the one thing that the project managers don't seem to account for is off time. They don't really account for how many people are working on the project, and as I constantly call it, the bus problem. If one person from a specific team walked out the door and got hit by a bus, how badly would it hurt your current workflow? If the answer is really bad, then you have a very bad problem. You need more redundancy. If the answer is none at all, then you've got good enough redundancy. Hashtag not a cult. Who's Chris? Oh, Chris Roberts. He's the CEO. He's the guy who started the whole thing. So. No, Jared is not CEO. It's not an uncommon. I heard about it when I was going to college, when I was learning things like economics and business in college. They use that concept. I love that analogy. I used it a bunch of times in some of my jobs to explain what proper staffing should be. Yeah. Does this new drastic date shift signify that CIG is realizing that PS will present far more hurdles to overcome than originally predicted, or are they taking time to flesh out server meshing? I think it's a little bit of both. I think they were wildly optimistic in terms of PESs being able to be completely up to snuff for the end of this year, and they hit a lot of hurdles and bumps, and they just couldn't complete it. So now they have to break it up into basic minimum viable product, for 3.18, and then they're going to add the other things going forward. But I also think that they want to have stuff done with PES in a more of a, as they said, hardened state before they can move on to 4.0 and server meshing. And I'm sure that server meshing, as Clive said, is still a work in progress. It's still an R&D project. So it's not actually, unlike PES, which was kind of fully, not done, but the prototype was completed and demonstrated in June of last year. Server meshing is not done. It's not even in a prototype stage. So they don't really know how it would work in the Star Citizen environment yet. PES, persistent entity streaming. Effectively, Grizzly, PES is the system that runs all of the persistence. So Star Citizen works in a very complex system. You don't really have, the goal is to have one server, kind of the one universe sort of idea. But the way that they're going to achieve that is through a lot of technical sleights of hands. So Star Citizen is built on, think of like a Russian nesting doll technology, where you're going to have one overarching group called the Shard, and inside that Shard will be smaller servers, and each server will hand off information from one to another as players leave one server and enter another. And in order to keep everything in line with where it's supposed to be, underneath all of that is going to be what's called the, I always call it the river, but it's the wrong term for it. I forget the name of it. It's effectively a separate service which keeps all of the information in and out. Replication layer, thank you, which will actively mark where everything is in the universe at all times and copy it when someone comes back. So, like, if you I'll take this pen and I leave it on my desk, and my desk is in my hab, then when I leave my hab and nobody shows up to my hab, this pen on my desk will stream out. It'll be put into the back end as an information data, but no one's around it, so it doesn't have to be seen. But if, say, Fishy comes into my hab when I'm not there, all that information is streamed back in, and this pen is going to be in the exact same place I left it. That's the replication layer. The replication layer will basically remember where everything is, but it's separate from the game server. So you don't have to, like, basically your client, when you're playing it, you don't care. You don't care you don't have to track where this pen was, because it's always going to be there. And so these services work together to create one giant system. And part of that system is called the persistent entity streaming, which allows you to take this pen that's on my desk and stream it out into the replication layer. And then when I come in, if no one shows up and I decide to log back in, that pen still remains there. Allows for persistence, as we know it. Where's your demonstration coffee cup? Well, Chris even stopped using coffee cups. Now they use Picos. Hey, Max. You had an accidental test of PES today? How did it go? So, Grizzly, I think that's a lot of... hopefully that's a lot of information, but hopefully you understand that a little bit. Aren't servers sort of linked at the moment right now? I seem to recall commodities cross server, which takes trading, make trading stuck. I don't know if it's strictly meshing, but that's not meshing. But it's effectively everything that doesn't deal directly with the gameplay is in a backend server, and they're trying to move as much of that as possible to a backend server, including the information. Right now, the replication layer is only tied to a server. So if I'm in server NA number 42 42069, that shard, that server, then that replication layer is only stuck to that that server. It doesn't exist outside of any other servers. The next major goal is to have that replication layer cover all servers so it knows where I am at all times. So if I log out in server 42069 and I log back in server 12121212, I'm in the same location with my ship at the same point because the replication layer remembers where I was. The chat of all shards. Explaining server meshing and the replication layer and such like that. So effectively, we're in a situation where the replication layer only works for one shard, one shard, one server. They want to make it across multiple servers to allow for you to remember where you are, which will hopefully make it so that your entire experience as I can't remember the name of it. Your whole experience with things like 30Ks won't matter, because when the 30Ks spin back up again, you'll just be back to where you were before when the 30K happened. Everyone would be back where they last were at, because it'll remember through the replication layer where you were. You have everything not gameplay in one truck now. They're trying to move all of that stuff to individual trucks for everything. Yeah, exactly. So that way, that server, they're effectively, if you're using that analogy, you have a truck which has all of the information in the bed. They're trying to move as many of that information out of that bed into other trucks, which are following the main truck, to make your truck go faster because it's not weighed down as much. And that way your truck can have more things added to it, which is not the basic gameplay stuff, like more AI, more gameplay, more things it can see, which should keep it a little bit more slim, while have the rest of these other trucks that are carrying all the servers continue to contact you and letting you know where it is at all times. It should help performance a lot too. The way that they talk about PES makes it sound like all entities are rendered at all times for all players in the server, even if it's a million of kilometers from the nearest player. But it's not rendered on the game server. It's rendered on the back end. So right now, if there's somebody on Daymar, the game server has to pay attention to anything that's done on Daymar, plus all of the information that's being spawned on Daymar as a result, which allows for lots of these different information. So like if you have like 300 dead bodies in a certain area, the game has to start culling those bodies, but it has to keep all that track of that information. With PES, a lot of that back end information, like if you leave Daymar and there's bodies on this, like right outside of this, what is it? Like underground facility, those bodies will stay there for the next player to come by until that server crashes. But with replication layer, all that information, all those bodies, what they had on them, all the weapons, all their gear, that is then passed off to the replication layer and stored in the back end, not the game server. So the game server doesn't have to remember that. It can just forget about that and move forward with just the player stuff, which is one of the reasons why right now we see not really a improvement in terms of FPS and performance, but we're seeing better performance in terms of servers overall, and more stable, at least more consistent performance with servers. Higher FPS, higher pings, or higher tick rates for the servers overall. Question. I summon your weight with CIG. I'm bummed that we won't be able to view our work in Quanta outside of the game. Be cool to be stuck at work and see which system I should go to when get at home. Please make this happen. CIG did say that they want to do an app where you could track some of that stuff, but not full Quanta. You'd be able to see like like stocks, as it were, like the performance is up and down. It's also reaching the limits of 64-bit accuracy. Yeah. Transition from a single large truck to a convoy, better yet a rail line, effectively, yeah. Who's going to clean up the medical gallons and garbage? Nobody. That can still stay there as long as it's the back end. It shouldn't hurt performance unless every single player has to render all of them at once. However, CIG has also said that they want to do things like they'll still cull some things through natural progression or have AI do it. Because if no one's there, and AI could easily have, like Quanta AI, which is not fully implemented yet, like a virtual AI, might be able to clean up some of that information. What is the holding on Tony Z's Quanta for trade? PES, most likely. Because there's a lot of information that's going back and forth, and the replication layer is a huge deal. Because they want to, when they have the trade for Quanta, they want to have the virtual AI system working, which doesn't seem to be fully finished yet. So. The server performance replication layer might actually finally fix the server tick rate and save them a lot of money on AWS. Kind of the downside to back-end changes. No one can see them like they're flashy new shit, but they're hard sells. Exactly. It's the reason why most typical developers wouldn't bother with it, because it's too expensive as an R&D project. Like Stephen King's Langoliers cleaning up reality after it's been used. Yeah. Didn't CIG up the tick rate in 3.18? They did. It's significantly higher than it was, almost double the tick rate that it used to be, but it's much more, it's not as stable. As more things pile up, you start to see the tick rate drop down even further, back to its normal levels in 3.17.4. It's just better at the start. So the question is more how to improve that, and that's just because they haven't even bothered doing a lot of the hardening or the improvements to PES and other aspects of the game. Question: anything new with your lore channel? Yes, we did. So for those of you who don't know, with the Astro Historian, my plan is to take to be a little bit more relaxed this month, because YouTube in general kind of disincentivizes you to do any content in the month of January. It doesn't promote you very well on the algorithm, and there's lots of other things like that. So my plan is to do a lot of videos which are specifically for Patreons and members, which will eventually get released to everybody else in February. But I'm still going to do like 2 or 3 different videos. I did finish I finished the script and the audio for part 3 of the complete history of Star Citizen lore. That's been passed off to my editor, who will take a look at it and start working on it this week and next week. They should probably have it done within 2 weeks or so. They're pretty fast. Your eye's pretty fast on this one. And I've already started working on the script for part 4, which I want to get done this week. So that when I go back to work, there's like next week, I can actually record the audio, so I can be a month ahead of all of the other ones if I can. Hey, 2-6 lack. Part 2 is already out. Part 2's been out for months, but no one watched it because people didn't realize it was released. Happy New Year to you. New Year to you too there, Space Goat. Question: do you think CIG could use a deep learning AI for using a managed quantum to replace Tony Z? No, nothing can replace Tony Z. Persistence is secretly CIG's social experiment on their player base, the version of shopping cart question. Yes. Yeah, part 1's done, part 2 is completed, and part 3 is on the way. The thing is, I released part 2 in a time period when no one was caring about Star Citizen, and I don't think I did the best thumbnail and title, but I figured that people who watch part 1 would watch part 2, and that just didn't seem to happen. It's on the Astro Historian YouTube channel. Yeah, it's definitely there. There's an entire playlist called the Complete History of Star Citizen Lore, which has part 2 on there. Question: do you think CIG will use deep learning to make AI NPCs dialogue, maybe even AI voices for space station chatter? Not a clue. Probably not. CIG does not seem to be interested in using that sort of technology right off the bat. They're much more likely to use actual paid actors and writers. The dialogue, the writers are fine for what they are. Something like that, I could see something like for a smaller indie dev to maybe lean on if they had to, but probably not for Star Citizen. Yeah, it just wasn't shown off because YouTube does this weird thing where if it doesn't really tick all of the algorithm's boxes, then it won't promote it. And I think it was at the time when 318 was still a long ways away. And I think I released it the week before CitizenCon. And so as a result, a lot of people, it got drowned out in the CitizenCon stuff. So. But the whole purpose of that whole video series is to allow it's to be evergreen. It's going to sit there and it'll spike and ebb as things go by. Like right now, look at the channel real quickly. Right now, it is there have been in the last 48 hours, 100 people have watched part 2. Last 48 hours, 241 people have watched part 1. So as of right now, if I look at my content, there have been part 1 has almost 20,000 views. And part 2 has almost 10,000 views. I don't think anyone else is excited as me about the larger RSI miner, rock bays, and maybe prospector hangar. Send it. Yeah, that'd be cool. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but it'd be cool. It'd be awesome to see RPG where all the companions have entirely AI created dialogue where you can actually have conversations with them. Certainly better than conversations with most people. We'll see. I'm not too much of a fan of AI generated dialogue because of how unethical they tend to be sourced. How about you link it? Okay. I mean, I have linked it. I've talked about it multiple times. It was released on October 15th, which is why it didn't do well. But it's taken off since then. There we go. I'll put it in both chats. Like, AI in general is not a bad idea as long as it's fairly sourced. Like, AI art, AI dialogue, as long as it's like they've paid licenses to use that art in the way that they're supposed to, or to use like scripts the way they're supposed to, or using like free source. Like there's plenty of AI that uses open source technologies. So things like non-copyrighted plays and stories and those sorts of things. Things that have lost their copyright, which are what are they called? There's a term for it. I can't remember it though. Not free use. It's a different name, different word for it. Public domain. Thank you, Darsh. Yeah, public domain. Stuff that's in the public domain. And while it's derpy, recent AI technologies could easily use those to improve a lot of stuff. So, IP freely. Question. So, have you seen the news? The lore team are ending their 10-year-long streak. Yeah, I wanted to show that off. In fact, that was the other news that I was going to bring up. We'll get into this kind of discussion. All right, I'll read this off. To start 2023, we wanted to share our plans for the lore release schedule going forward. Beginning in January, the narrative team will be scaling down the release of original content on the website in order to focus on in-game content for Star Citizen and Squadron 42. This will allow for the team to expand our capacity to deliver NPC dialogue and mission text, including support for narrative-heavy investigation missions, item descriptions, and more. Having weekly fictional content has been something we've been ongoing since the game was initially announced back in 2012. Though these characters and through these characters and stories, have been able to help convey the tone and feel of the universe in a game we're trying to build. As the game comes to life, we need the need for these posts has decreased since players are able to start crafting their own stories in the universe. While the team will be reducing the amount of original material solely for the website, we'll continue to release content content 2 or 3 times a month in our standard Tuesday slot. This will include a monthly update to the Galactopedia, Jump Point, and Whitley's Guide articles, not currently available on the website, and our quarterly Lore Makers posts, where will be questions asked for our Ask the Devs forum. Now, we may be hitting a pause button on new lore for the website, but there's always a chance we could write a special post to contextualize an in-game event, progress an ongoing Empire Wine storyline, or simply check in on one of the characters that have come to life in dispatches over the last 10 years. Since the schedules will vary slightly from month to month, here's a rough guide on what the release schedule will look like going forward. No post on the first Tuesday, release the Jump Point Release Guide, Lore Makers post in March, June, September, and December. No post on any of the months. Galactopedia posts, this is the last Tuesday of the month, where they've all 5 Tuesdays. Then additional Jump Point with this guide. Galactopedia will post round out the month right. So effectively, they are completely stopping the scheduled lore posts, which means we will no longer get any updates and stories from the verse until they come back. I think the way that they've, my only complaint is that we would never be able to tell stories like the Devarin Terrorist versus Devarin Bounty Hunter in game currently, but I get it. That story would be an exception to the rule. That's what they're basically saying, is that they'll progress things for context or for information, but they've been writing for the sake of writing for 10 years, and they're getting to the point where writing for the sake of writing doesn't A, advance the story in any way, or B, give us better context to the universe. The lore team's not taking a hiatus. They're just shifting gears. They're no longer focusing on website posts, but focusing on in-game posts. So it's a good thing. It basically means that we're going to get more lore in-game going forward than we are going to be on the website, which is good. So we have combat, industrial, and exploration ships, but there are are the civilian commercial vehicles? There would be a 4-door sedan in the verse, and are there what would be a 4-door sedan in the verse, and what are civilian manufacturers? Honestly, Cleric, I don't think we will see. Star Citizen doesn't really have a need for civilian vehicles. Every landing zone, every major port in the Star Citizen universe has very good public transportation because they're built with it in mind. And if you don't have public transportation, they have access to things like shuttles and, which is still kind of public transportation, like spaceships, which are faster. The only places you wouldn't need public transportation would be on frontier worlds. And there you would have things like the Cyclone, which is the venerable civilian and military transport that's existed for 500 years. It's called the DX-20 originally, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just, you just won't see a lot of those sorts of things. Now, I think as CIG goes forward, they may add more civilian vehicles, especially since Tumbril specifically has a whole range of vehicles that they have built in the past that are civilian based. I'm sure things like pickup trucks, SUVs, vans, sedans, but until that time, they just won't need it. What's the latest on the planetary dynamic weather system, you think? Not the on-rails ground storms we currently have. Need my rainy nights at ArcCorp. I think they're trying to kind of work out more of the details when it comes to Gen 12 renderer, because I think there's a lot of stuff they have to work on with the Vulkan before they can start really going hard into that stuff, but most spaceships are still out of the financial reach of your average citizen. Yeah, but in the, and again, DJAJ, I disagree. They're not out of reach. It depends on where you live. If you live on the frontier, having a spaceship is more life. It's more part of living your life. But you don't really need to if you're inside of a big city like Terra. Yeah, and you also got to take into account the hover vehicles that exist, like the hover quad or the Dragonfly or any of those things. Yeah, they have to rework ArcCorp in the first place before we get our rainy nights in ArcCorp, but that'll take a while. Isn't it weird tech companies use public domain works as text AIs, pay copyright holders for songs music, but AIs, but blame artists for protesting while using their art for images with AI without informing? I mean, it is weird like that. That's the one thing I don't like about AI generated art, is that it just tends to be just arts theft, pretty much. Are there slums on Earth, by the way? There probably are slums everywhere. The range of slums is fairly limited because Earth is fairly unpopulated. Earth itself right now in the Star Citizen universe has less population than modern day population of Earth. There are less people who live on Earth today, in 2953 than live in 2023. How many frontier worlds are there in comparison to worlds with landing zones? It's hard to tell off the completely, but there is far more frontier worlds than there are settled worlds. Because those worlds tend to also not be part of the UEE or have very tentative connections to the UEE. And some of them do have landing zones, but they're not nearly the same scale or scope as you would see in, say, Stanton. Yar, for instance, has a small landing strip with just, that's it. It's just a landing zone. You sit there, you get down, you land on it, and you, on a pad, you get out and you can walk around the like straight from the spaceport. You just walk right into the city. There's no need for public transportation because it's right there, because it's tiny. Grey Cat and Lore is a major industrial vehicle producer, right? If yes, do you know if they have any plans for making industrial ships by Grey Cat? They don't, but I wish they did. The only thing they have that's even close to a industrial spaceship is the Cydnus mining drone, which is an autonomous / controllable mining tick. It's like a giant floating mech with a giant butt. It's got a thick ass butt, which is just a giant ore receptacle. Tasha Yar had a landing strip. Lucky Data. Yar's with 2 R's there, Darsh. Isn't ArcCorp already a slum planet? Yeah, kinda. How many people are on the narrative team? 5, as far as I know. They just hired a new writer. They have the producer, then they have the lead writer, the head of narrative, who's Dave Haddock, and then there's the producer, and then there's the lead writer, and then there's the archivist, and then I think there's 2 or 3 writers. So it's like 6 or 7 total people. I want a capital Argo refinery with landing pads for prospectors. That would make a lot of sense, honestly. It would. That's just kind of how Argo rolls. I can't remember all of the names. I know it's Adam and Sherry and David and Jeremy is the new one. And then there's always 2 that I forget. The narrative team for Squadron 42 is different from Star Citizen team. No, same team. same team. The same soon TM team. Yeah. To be fair, I've talked with Dave Haddock. I've seen the updates that they do on monthly updates. The lore team is as frustrated as I am about lore being on the website and not in the game. But the writers don't have a lot of control over what tech is in place and what's needed to be done to tell stories. So they don't really have the ability to tell the stories. And I think as of recently, they're starting to get some of that technology. Like they've been experimenting with ambient voices in things like IAE, where you can hear conversations going on in the background, which is a good start, but I'd rather see actual 2 AI going up and talking with one another so you can hear that while you're kind of going through it. But that's the big thing. Like the big things to kind of give you idea of what's happening in the universe is contextual conversations and advertisements, which they've been doing pretty good. The next step after that, in my opinion, is events. Random events that can happen throughout a landing zone or a city. The classic Half-Life 2, pick up that can. And anyone who's played Half-Life 2 knows what I'm talking about. Or if you've played a Fallout, like the Fallout 4, the random events, or even Skyrim, the random events you can stumble into, which will happen depending on where you go. Those sorts of things will add a lot more flair. Like a protest happening in Loreville with workers being violently put down by Hurston security. Or, a street performer in Area 18, or a yoga session going on in Microtech, that kind of thing. How about AIs in combat situations yelling at each other? That would work too. That would help as well. That's pretty easy though. Yeah, Galactopedia in-game would be a fantastic thing, and a Moby-Glass would be a fantastic thing. I don't think that's going to happen until they get the Moby-Glass finished though. Do you think it's still going to be our size year? Yes. Why? Because they have a lot of fucking ships. 7 or 8 ships which are in the processes, and there's really no other ships that are in processes besides they just announced the Galaxy. It seems like it's their year. It would be cool if Protest Spawn do to Quanta, yeah. Random encounters make Skyrim feel like a living world. Exactly. Do you see that Starfield is going to have entire dynamic locations, not just random people living along the road in the latest Q&A video? Yeah, it looks good. Starfield is doing best it can do with its limited abilities to make its universe feel alive, which is something that Bethesda does really well on. For those of you who don't know, I also have been covering Starfield recently, so. Do you think the lore team wants to use Mission Giver NPCs back, use them to avenues to deliver lore to certain factions? 100%. I can guarantee you they want that, but it's just the AI is not available yet. That's the most frustrating thing about knowing that 4.0 is not coming out until at the least end of the year, more than likely the beginning of next year, is that like the AI is gated behind it. The new AI systems are entirely gated behind server meshing, which is frustrating as all get out. I've seen NPC clusters in Loreville where it looked like someone was being arrested. I'd kill for that actually being a thing you could walk across. Yeah. Or maybe like a medical emergency in Loreville where you see someone being carried by a stretcher from a random location to Maria Pure Heart. That'd be fantastic. Being like, get out of the way, move, kind of thing. And you could just reuse some of those animations and some of those events in other locations, just different uniforms. They could add those free lore stories as ebooks in the game. Some players don't even know that stories exist. I mean, they're fiction in the universe, so it makes sense. All right, I'm going to be right back again. Be nice, chat. This will be much faster. I'm watching you. If you're watching this on YouTube, wait until I come back.
Weapons free, y'all.
Distress, bacon.
Good news. I'm fly. Good news. I'm pilot. I'm fly. I'm pilot.
Drugs.
Fish in a mount.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Fish in a mount.
It was at this moment that he knew.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
Distress bacon. Distress bacon. Distress. Drugs.
I'm fly. I'm pilot.
It was at this moment that he
Bounty
knew.
hunting is a
He fucked
complicated
up.
profession.
Hello, I like money.
Fish in a mount.
Complicated profession.
Drugs.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
All right. I didn't like Skyrim, gasp, and I couldn't finish Fallout 4. I got to the Institute and just, damn, dude. I got it. How does it originally get started? I have no clue. I have no clue. Thank you, Brandard, for that 14 months of subscribe. You are a very important pupper, very impressive pisser. Let's do this right now. Does this mean we'll get a rework of the Aurora this year if it's RSI's year? I'd hope so, but I don't think so. Because it seems like it's RSI's year in terms of large ships, because I don't see there are many small ships in the RSI fleet. I'd love to see an RSI Aurora rework this year, but I don't think it's going to happen. Question, won't the current version of PES that we have help a lot with the current AI due to the increased server tech rate? And they're able to harden it enough to make a difference? They should, in theory, and it seems to have a little bit. The reactions are a little bit better, but... We'd love to see all the starter ships get some love. The cutter set the new bar. As I've always said, there's no point in redoing the starter ships until the new player experience to help new players until the new player experience actually exists. The current new player experience is here's the keys, throw it at your face, bounce it off your nose, and say good luck, kid. That's what the new player experience is currently. Squadron 2023 is not dead because 1, Citizen is back live. 2, although content might be light, the progress towards Squadron 42 and server meshing is more important. 2023 is not going to be dead year because I don't know why people think that it's going to be a light content year. Because people are obsessed with monkey brain neuron activation, monkey go ooh, with Pyro. Like Pyro is not some sort of mystic mountain upon which we will sit and achieve enlightenment. Pyro is just Stanton system, but like more. It's not Stanton 2.0, obviously. It's a different type of Stanton system. It's a different type of star system, but it's just more area. It's not new stuff. It's just more area. All the stuff that will make the Stanton system or make the Pyro system better or interesting will have to first start in Stanton at some point. It's a system I'll be happy to no longer hear about. Yeah. Server meshing is, as far as I can tell, almost entirely scale. That's all it is. It's mostly about scaling the number of people per server. That's it. Almost everything in the game is dependent on persistent entity streaming, not server meshing. The game itself lives or dies by the PES system. Server meshing simply allows you to stitch other servers together to increase the size, which will have some knock-on effects, which will allow for things like more AI to exist and the new AI system to function. But that's about it. Almost everything is based off of PES. Will there be a mountain in Pyro I can climb and something? Yes, it's controlled by that mountain is called Mount Rat, which is where the fire rats are, and you just have to strip naked and get blasted by Pyro's solar flares to your naked body. I'm not even joking. That's how the Pyro rats roll. They make you strip naked and take full force beaming of Pyro's solar flares to your genitals. That's literally one of their rituals. Naked, you say, and Cupan shows up now. Hey, Henkin. Thank you for the stream, brother. Got to pop out. Have a good night there, Henkin. Thanks for hanging out. Did we get a follow command for Henkin? Another great streamer. And Celine. I don't know. I think we already got Celine, though. Noodly. Celine shows up for your naked talk too. I see you, girl. She was here earlier. It's good for your soul. How does regen affect the fire rats? A lot. It's hard to tell. Yeah, full-throated. Thank you, Sergeant Lobster. There's a thing that I said full throttle, but actually Chris Roberts says it even worse. He calls it the Star Citizen community full-throated accepted something. And I'm like, oh God, Chris. I know why you said it, because it's from Austin, and I got the joke, but it is a legit phrase, but come on. Hey, Paul, any ideas when we'll get rain and thunderstorms in game? We definitely need... I think we need the cloud tech to be finished up with Gen 12 stuff. But we'll see. Debbie does Austin. I really hope we get item version 2 in 2023. Now that the PS is in the game, do you think this will happen? They've already talked about that. The system they're using now is the system that they're using for for the resource system. They call it it's called the resource system, which is replacing the pipe system, the item port system. It's already in the game with 3.18. It's going to continue to be added. I love Austin except for the heat and the tree allergies. That's pretty much all Austin. Yeah, it's true. Let's say it's pretty much, and it's not. Austin's winning that, but Clean my glasses? No, Naz. In fact, there, now they're even dirtier. Just for you. I need new glasses, what I need. You know how old these things are? They are... $15 years old. Yeah. I don't really need them that often. I usually only need them for, like, if I'm saying I'm going to a movie or, like, I'm driving. Like, I can see pretty much everything and read everything like now. I have to strain my eyes a little bit. I've just been using them more often because I don't want to strain my eyes as much. So you got them when you pack Star Citizen. These glasses are older than Star Citizen. Hey, Pete's here. How's it going? I haven't had a prescription change in 15 years. I had one eye checkup between then, and they were like, yep, it's the same. So, but I definitely need to get another eye checkup to kind of make sure. Nothing is older than Star Citizen. What are my main expectations for 319? Arena Commander, pretty much. I expect some hardening of PES, some of the back-end stuff like that. I expect likely, it depends on when it releases, because I'm expecting it to come out in Q2. I'm expecting the resource system version 1 to drop with it. Expecting persistent hangars and cargo elevators to come with it. Persistent hangars. That's about it. Probably, hopefully, munching, but I don't think we'll see munching in 319. We're not going to see Hull Seas. We're not going to see Hull Seas until post-Pyro, sadly. What's getting hard on the back end now? I don't know. Based off of the updates they've given us recently, munching is already already been worked on and or on the table. They're already working on it, I should say. It's been actively developed, and they tend to not actively develop things unless they're intending on releasing them. But January is the month where everything gets thrown out the window and they try to restart from the beginning. So. No, 318 also has the Reclaimer. The Reclaimer works as well. I was going to say, like, the whole being locked behind a paywall doesn't sit well with me, but there's also you can still hand, salvage if you need to. And the Reclaimer has been available to purchase in game for a long time. So while the Reclaimer is, you can also rent the Reclaimer, I think, also. So that's the advantage. What Cortex should really fix desync? None of it. It's just optimizations. CIG's even said that. There's nothing fundamentally ingrained in any of the PES or server meshing that will fix desync. What will fix desync is them stopping to work. They need to work on it. They just don't have time to work on it because most of that team is working on PES and then server meshing. They've even said, until server meshing is finished, they're not going to look at desync. So it's just time and optimization. So they either need to hire more people, which I think they're trying to try to fix that earlier, or not work on server meshing as much. And that may be one of the reasons why server meshing is going to take a little bit longer, because they're going to sit some time and maybe even try to tackle some of these issues when it comes to desync. So what's the big thing after server meshing? Dynamic server meshing. They have been hiring more people for the last 5 years. And the problem is that they always need more people. Between people, leaving to do other things or retiring to do other things, and people, and them needing more people for a certain job. It's just an endless loop. I just had an idea for a fan game, an 8-bit Star Citizen Tycoon game where you hire crews and send them in your missions and stuff. That'd be a great idea. Question: seeing how crafting is temporary in 3.18, do you think it will be? What do you think will be the first real step to see it crafting tier 0? A ship. There needs to be some sort of gameplay associated with it, other than push button outcome thing. Some sort of skill based gameplay, be it the wave functionality, like the power and wave functionality we see with mining, or the like spread that we see, the kind of like the time to actually like craft, like you wave your mouse over the bits to assemble it with like a little goo gun or whatever, something like that. Yeah, some sort of Argo mobile construction vehicle that we've heard rumors of, which is all of the text files seem to say it is a production, not like a construction, but production facility. What, my question not important? I didn't see your question. Naz, you're so forgettable. Seriously, what is your question? I didn't see it. Oh, question. Do I need to Steam on Twitch? How do I get almost 200 viewers? I don't know how, don't Steam on Twitch. Naz. Steaming on Twitch is a bad idea. You should probably consult your doctor. It says Steam. No. The only reason why I have 200 people is because I got raided. And a lot of these fine folks are sticking around to learn a little bit more about Star Citizen. Celine rated me for like 70 people, and Smashly rated me for about 250 people. So don't Twitch on Steam either. I mean, for those of you who are wondering, who are watching me on Twitch, who are only watching me on Twitch, there's about 70 people watching me on YouTube, and on Twitch, for those of you on YouTube, there's about 195 people on Twitch. So some of us are always watching, bro. I know. Noodly, what is that? What is that? Oh, I don't know who that is, Bruce. Huh. My skills don't match up, and CIG can't afford me. If they're maybe I'd retire if I work for them. For them to pay for medical. They do actually have a pretty good medical program. How Steam Twitch 200 viewers? Just get lucky and get to know other streamers. It's a process. Find a niche. Is the Galleon ships considered crafting? I think it would be. Sneeze. There are raids on YouTube. It's just more complicated and time consuming. You have to allow certain groups to be able to host you, and then they have to, when they finish, they can host onto you. There's no real community of Star Citizen streamers on YouTube either. It just doesn't make it very easy. Yeah. You have to look it up. Like there's an allow list that you can have of allowing the certain people to host into you, and they have to physically choose to do so. But Naz, the answer is, if you were honestly wondering about getting more people to watch you and stream, be consistent, no matter what, and promote. You know, you come onto my captain's table. You're coming on the captain's table on Saturday, and promote your content more. Get people to come over and watch you. Timberborn on Steam is a popular game. That is true. I mean, I did get this, which, you know, glasses. You know? Question, do you think we'll see stealth warships the size of corvettes or frigates I'm thinking something the Visby class IRL or Amun Ra class from the Expanse. Probably not. We might see something that's more of a gunship class, which is stealth, but not stealth. But what if you want to get good first? Piss poor Pete. You already are good. You just need to get better. I fear the day that Pete and Online and Gal get together for some shenanigans, because that's the day that Star Citizen is destroyed. That is it's like the wolf time, you know, when Fenrir eats the moon, when the four horsemen of the apocalypse shows up. It's when the gods descend from the earth to battle for mankind's future. That's the day when all things will end. Am I attending the Content Creators Summit? I am. Yeah, that's another great place to go. The Content Creator Summit. AstroPub, I've been having a huge brainwave about luxury transport thingamabobs. Now, think Galaxy modules. What if you turn the cargo module into a dance floor with a DJ booth at the front? Yes, big brain. And Justin Bieber makes a full comeback. Yes. You broke your glasses, Paul. The two sticks for years are cut in fall. Ouch. I also want to show this off because there's more people here. For those who don't know, I also do, for hobby, I usually do this very beginning as well. I do paint miniatures because I'm a nerd, and I've been doing some of my 40K stuff. So I've been going through the latest purchase I made a little bit ago, and this is the latest version. Came out of the latest Acadia Stands box. Really happy with this one. It turned out really well. I like the base especially. There's two of them. I've done two of them this last week, and I did a tank. So all I have left is a Sentinel, which is like an ATST Walker type thing, and then 40 troops, 40 soldiers. Oh God, I didn't realize that was that many. That's way better than I could do. If you gave me one of these, just be blotches of color. It took me 2 years of practice and lots of look. I practiced trial and error to get this good. And it's not even, I'm not even that good. I'm just okay. I do think I'm better than a lot of people who do the hobby or do like the game. Because I think a lot of people just kind of do bare minimum and slap it on there and get it done. I've seen some people. I want to put some pride in my work in the sense that if I'm playing the game, if I'm playing, Star Wars Legion or 40K or Marvel Crisis Protocol, then I'm gonna fucking have good minis. They're gonna look good. Did I not update the January? I did update the January. It's January. That's right. Drake Fulcher's right. Which kind of glue are you using for your models? I'm using just Gorilla Glue. I mean, I use this. This is a classic one. It's green. Tamiya extra thin cement is what I use for most of them. But it's everything is green around it, so it gets coated out. But if that doesn't work, because sometimes it doesn't work very well, then I do Gorilla Glue gel, super glue. Well, I'd call that better than just okay, Paul. Looks rather good to me. I mean, I think it's good. But I also know that there are people who are far better than I am at painting who would look at this and be like, I can see all the flaws here. It's like, yeah, I know. I'm not painting it to be perfect. I'm painting it to be good enough. With, you know, an eye to detail and like some care put into it, but... Traded in for a Warlord Titan. Yes. Yes. Coffee table miniature. For those who don't know, a Warlord Titan, I think it is, you can purchase one. The leg is the size of a table. It's like 9 feet tall. Yeah, no, I could do things like battle damage it a little bit, give it some chips and paints, and I could go through and do like edge highlighting for all of them and do all the little details in there. But I don't want to. I want to get it done, and so it looks nice. This started as a COVID project, is what it did. Does that really count as a miniature at that point? Yeah. Compared to the actual in-lore size, which is the size of a walking church. I think the main thing most people don't realize is how little paint you actually need to put on a mini. Yeah, it's very tiny amount. A little tiny little like squeeze bottle or little bucket, tiny little pot will get you through like hundreds of miniatures. Joey, thanks for a good night, man. No, I haven't gotten to gunplay yet. I do want to get into it at some point, but I have no idea what to do because I am so far behind on Gundam. I think the most I'd get is I'd probably try to get some Zaku's because Zaku's are pretty iconic in my mind, but it's hard to find those. Just a traditional Zaku. See you Saturday, Darsh. Yeah, I could. There actually are 3D printed stuff you could do with like explosions, so you could do it like that if I needed to. But it's nice. It looks clean, but you know, I'm okay with it looking clean. Sorry, Red Pelk. What was your question? Like I said, if it's this question, why do the majority of ships follow the typical pointed or wedge-shaped space frames? Are there any obscure ship designs that we never see in game that have lore or descriptions about? Most of those ships that exist are, we do see them. We see them in terms of the, like the Orion is a little off kilter for it, but the general idea is that most Star Citizen ships are space planes or some version of a space plane. If you wanted something that's not so pointed, it's more rounded, look at something like the Tavara, or the Xi'an. The Xi'an have a very different style, and obviously the Banu. But. Nomad, yeah. Argo, those were most like big bricks, yeah. There's the Walking Anus, the Cardual. Yeah, it's very linear. It's tall rather than pointed. There's the Aurora, in my opinion, isn't really a classic spaceship either. It's effectively a brick. Printing parts for an AT-AT? Nice. Yeah, you've got the Gatak Raylan has the kind of more of a starfish forward front facing. Will server meshing come in 2023? CIG says yes, I say no. I don't think we'll see server meshing coming in until 2024. I think at best, we might see server meshing like a 4.0 release to like a Wave 1 PTU at the end of the year. But that's just my opinion. But effectively, the thing you have to understand, Rat, I think it was Rat, wasn't it? Rat Palk. Rat is that Star Citizen's CIG is going for a design language with different species. So humans are all designed around a very specific design language. You notice the straight, the kind of like the cylinder, the point, or the wedge, because they want that to kind of feel human. And then when you look at the Banu have like more organic, like squid or like crabs. They look much more different. They still have very similar kind of ideas, so they're recognizable as ships, but they're not like traditionally human geometric shapes. The Banu Merchantman has like the big kind of squid-like arms and everything with its nose and such. And then the Tavaran is designed all to look like birds because they're bird people, because, you know. But as a result, you see kind of more of a flat nose and kind of different geometric shapes to them. They kind of look like wings, but don't necessarily have to look like wings. Like when a prowler is landed, it looks like an angry gorilla. And then you have the Xi'an, who are supposed to be entirely devoid of like aerodynamics. They're supposed to be focusing entirely on the gravimetric tech, so they've got this very linear design, which is kind of different, kind of like tall rather than forward. Or I'm not linear, but the ships are tall, not long. Soft edges, flowing metals, yeah. Yeah, they also have their virtual cockpits. So, yeah. So it's really, when you're looking at lore, the concept is at least that humans tend to develop in a specific pattern because that's what worked for them. And humans tended to rely more on aerodynamics than any of the other species out there because they wanted to have their ships be more operable in atmospheres as well. Will aliens come in 2023? Yes and no. We'll definitely see. I think we'll see the rock bug, which is in 318. At least the corpse of it is. I think we'll see that running around. Or not the stone bug. It's called the rock bug. It's called the stone bug. I think that'll be running around before the end of the year. But I don't think we'll see like the Banu and the Xi'an or the Vandul or anything like that. That's a very good explanation. Human ships are designed to be that way, specifically to feel that way. I should have specified human ship in my initial question. Not really a lot of human ships. I think you could see something like the Redeemer is similar in the sense that it has a kind of a forward point, but but its engines, its silhouette is kind of broken up a little bit more. But Argo, almost entirely Argo. I would say all of Argo's ships are the things that buck the trend, because almost all Argo ships are blocks. They're not cylinders. They're not points. They're blocks, literally. Look at the Raft. The Raft doesn't even have a forward. Its cockpit is just a stunt. It's just kind of an extension of the entire arms lengths of it. Space cubes, yeah. Drake still kind of has that pointy shape though. Though they tend to be like rounded cubes. Will I be in game in 2023? Yes, I will be playing it in next week. Probably not this week because I'm kind of taking this week off, but I think we'll see server meshing hit Avocati in September when they'll likely get Wave 1 and PTU in December, much like 318 this year. Something like that, I think, yeah. Your clown's got a lethality nerf today, Paul. I saw. Lots of updates for 40k. And my guard got absolutely no nerfs. except for these boys are completely fucking useless now. Because I just painted them and they're already useless because because all artillery is pointless. That's another story though. I still live in hope we'll get Paul as a holo guide in the museum somewhere. I'd love to see that. Hey, Shinobi. The Reclaimer is a good example too. It doesn't really have it's not really it's much more of a brick. I'd love to see AstroPub MTC character giving out tours of Hurston Memorial. Yeah, it'd be interesting. So yeah, 2023 is going to have a lot of content that I think people don't realize, but I think the problem is that a lot of people so hyper focus on server meshing as to be the only thing that matters. And the reality is that server meshing isn't really as important as people think. It's important to allow for thousands of people per server, but even not more than 100 people per server. But that's more for scaling of the universe, not really the content and gameplay. There's a lot of stuff that is likely to be added this year when it comes to things like persistent servers, bounty hunting. We also don't know things about like reputation, where that whole thing is, quantum. A lot of those things are still up in the air and could come out because a lot of that is dependent on PES. So. Question: do you think what do you think the Retaliator base will be good for? Flying from point A to point B? It's still gonna have all its guns on it, I think. So it'll be a good combat ship. It'll be like a mini version of a Hammerhead. We're definitely getting Movement 2.0 towards the end of the year. We're definitely going to be getting the UI overhaul, the maps. I think this year is much more likely to be things like Gen 12. Gen 12 is finished. But this year is much more likely to be optimizations. Improving lists for things like Vulcan and those sorts of things. Question: Hopium. What do you think? What do you hope for in CitizenCon this year? Pragmatic. What do you expect at CitizenCon? What do I hope for? Squadron 42 release date. What do I expect at CitizenCon? Pyro. Pyro again. Just more bullshit about Pyro that we've already talked about or seen 1,000 times before. And anybody has followed development over the entirety of 2023 will be like, this shit we already knew. You've missed a lot, Osin. I think it's really subjective opinion. Star Citizen is more than the sum of its parts. Already, server meshing is the enabling feature for delivering the MMO part of the game. Without it, it's not possible. I disagree because MMO is such a subjective concept. I believe that the definition that most people go by is can there be over 100 people per server to make it an MMO? And the answer is yes, there already is. So it's already an MMO. But the reality is that a lot of having more people in the game doesn't make the game better. It just makes the game bigger. The things that make a game better are its gameplay mechanics and how it can interact with the players. A lot of that stuff is specifically not specifically tied to server meshing. Will we see the Loreville rework in 2023? I believe so. Star Citizen is never going to be an RPG. Not in the traditional sense. It's not going to be World of Warcraft or any of those sorts of things. It's a sandbox, but it'll always be an MMO sandbox. Will there be some kind of story in Star Citizen, or will it be purely sandbox? Yeah. There are many story points throughout Star Citizen's lore, which are meant to be dealt for by players. But it'll be much more of an open world story So there's not going to be a narrative like main campaign you play through. That's just not what's going to happen outside of Squadron 42. You're not going to see that in the Star Citizen universe. But you'll have things like who controls Ruin Station. You'll have questions about the future of things like Xenothreat, or the future of the Nine Tails, or the various individual companies that you work for. Maybe the individual characters and their rise or fall to infamy or fame, fame or infamy. Those sorts of things. Player count is the elephant in the room, though. Capital ships, settlements, that all requires more player cap than a lot more. Yes, but that's not what Star Citizen is fundamentally about. Those things are nice to have, and they're important to have. And I think CIG will reach that. But just because server meshing is in doesn't mean suddenly you're going to have Idrises flying around. You also need things like NPCs. You need to have NPC behaviors. You need to have the ability to even function and maintain those capital ships before you can even fly them. Because otherwise it's just a big ship that can hold a lot of people, which we have plenty of those already. Just having big thing does not make thing better. It's just big thing, if that makes sense. Now, I know that's, for some people, that's what they care about. They want to have big capital ship battles. That's all they give a shit about. That is what their idea is. Pyro is the thing that they care about. But in reality, that doesn't actually hold a lot of stuff back. Things I see as maybes for 2023: resource management, new UGF interiors, asteroid bases, bounty hunting version 2, Hull C and associated gameplay, tractor beams, cutting version 2, fire ship, CPUs, ship life support, MFD rework, X1, the X1, persistent hangars, more quantum vehicle munching, swimming, weapons misfire. Those are all things that are likely to happen in some way, shape, or form. If you know anything about CR, there will probably be a narrative storylines dropped in for those who ain't following them. Basically, that's what Squadron 42 is, to a degree. How likely is NPC taxons missions this year? Probably low, because the team that was working on the taxi missions ended up working on the resource system. So, yeah, punctuation, please. What you're saying, size doesn't matter? No. There's plenty of very big games that are boring as fuck. Just having a big one doesn't mean that you're good at anything. It just means you have a big one. I'm not saying that having big battles and having like base building is like, I'm not poo-pooing that idea. I just think that it's not as important as people think it is, because there's a lot of other aspects to it. Like, there's no point in having a base until you can figure out like the resource management to make that base fun and interesting to use. Just having a place you can go to, there's plenty of bases now you can go to that have no NPCs around them. Having NPCs walking around and interacting with you, having a reputation system that matters, having multi-crew gameplay. These are all things which are 100% achievable this year in some way, shape, or form without server meshing. And that will add a lot of depth to the game and have more interest to the game. Personally, I'm more interested in being an engineer on a ship than the navigator or turret operator. Yeah. I'd love to see small space stations that orcs can battle over control. Didn't they say you can own a UGF? I don't know. I think they said it's possible, but I don't think that's going to be version 1 at least. Question, have they said how Spectrum Communication Network will work in the game? It's not meant for real-time communications, but the idea is that Spectrum stuff is supposed to work with... Okay, so how Spectrum works is that each station is equipped with a transmitter and a receiver. Those transmitters and receivers send out information which is lightly encoded to other transmitters and receivers depending on traffic. And if worse comes to worse, each station, I believe, has drones, which it's equipped with, which can also send out messages if it needs to. They can download the information to a drone and send it out. Now, those relay stations at the mouth of jump points actually do have large numbers of drones loaded onto them. And once a mission or transmission is received at that point, which needs to go through a jump point to another location, it gets downloaded into a drone, and that drone is then fired through the jump point, which acts kind of as a semi-autonomous ship. Once it gets to the other side of the jump point, it then either docks or transmits that information to the local relay station, and that relay station will then relay the message down that chain until it reaches its location it needs to be. But because it's over the air, it is vulnerable to being intercepted or hacked. So that's why you have courier missions. That's why you have data runners, because their job is to effectively securely transmit data and maybe go into places where there aren't any relay stations built. That's how the system's supposed to work. I've been seeing a lot of controversy over the validity about Quanta. Without it, do you think the player experience with NPCs will suffer, or will it not matter in most cases? Quanta is not the NPC stuff. Like, AI that we would interact with on a daily basis is, I believe, I forgot the name of it. There's a specific name for it that I can't think of right now. Subsumption AI, the Subsumption AI, which is already in the game. So the Subsumption AI that we saw at CitizenCon last year, that should be in the game by around 4.0. Maybe before, maybe after, around that time. And that's the system that you will interact with on a regular basis, which gives different personality types and tags to allow them to do different information, that kind of thing. That's different. That's already being worked on, and it's not a question of can it happen. It will happen. It just depends on the time. The Quanta system is more like the back-end simulation, which already exists in game now. It already functions in game now, because that system is how fuel prices and repair costs are measured. And if you've done a security mission, like one of those, like, hey, I need help, those security combat missions or whatever, those mission types are tracked by Quanta, which is why in some cases a station or a system will, like a planetary system, won't have any. You go to other places, it has a lot. That's because the Quanta is tracking where those hostile NPCs are going, and based off the probability volume, which is a different system itself, is pulling those ideas out and turning them into missions. So we already see the Quanta in-game working right now. But it's more to do with more of the economy side of things and the mission side of things. Have a good night there, Ryan. Will we get any Quanta updates this year, either in-game or otherwise? I don't know. I'd love to see that. And it feels like Tony Z wants to do something. There's been a lot of mentions of at the early, or at least around CitizenCon, Chris said something about Tony Z trying to do something frantically trying to get something in for 318. I think it's twofold. That PES is a big part of Quanta. Like virtual AIs and Quanta need to exist, can exist, but I think they need PES system engaged, like, and the persistent, the replication layer. Those things need to be in place before they can really like expand on the Quanta. But we also know that they were working on the dynamic mission system this last year as well. So we may see the dynamic mission system implemented soon in the next year or so. So a lot of stuff like that. Question: what's my favorite food? Pizza. Surprise. I would say steak or brisket is probably number two, though. The vehicle damage should be getting better with the vehicle munching and cutting version 2, which depends on when that comes in, yeah. What's preventing CIG to fill the verse with physical NPCs? I'd imagine the landing zones would be pretty crowded. Server space. Like, that's the one reason why, like, that's one of the few things, like, in terms of volume of NPCs, which is being limited by server meshing. Server meshing will allow them to split up those different areas into their own servers, which means that the server only has to handle less entities in its region, so it'll be able to increase the volume of NPCs. But like I said, it's a scale issue. Small scale versus large scale. Hey, Dovikin, doing good. Do I think cargo hauling will get a buff this year? Yes, I do believe it will. I don't know when, but I think it will. Hope we get in-game TV and media. What else are those TV screens and ship stations for? I hope so too. Happy New Year to you too, Dova. Throw an ad in here. Can't wait for me watching TV and Star Citizen here. Breaking news, another attack on Portalsar. Question, what's your personal resolution for the year? For like me personally, I want to lose weight. I want to be about 40 pounds lighter by the time CitizenCon rolls around. Hopefully I can be able to do it. It'd be interesting to watch SCL come up on a random screen somewhere and just watch it in game. They probably wouldn't do that, but yeah. You want to look like Chris Hemsworth? Nah, I just want to lose 40 pounds so I can be more presentable. I'll be at my weight where I was in high school, high school, which is pretty good. Not just the Lord Daddy, but the Buff Daddy, Buff Lord Daddy. Yeah, I'm trying to make by November, October, November of next year, I'm trying to make thirst traps. Okay, chat. That's what I'm trying to do. How will the armor implementation work? Will it be a huge nerf for light fighters? It's hard to tell, but almost certainly armor will add weight, which will reduce speed and maneuverability. But it'll increase things like survivability to certain types of weapons. I believe the original concept was that armor would deflect ballistic weapons, but shields would melt them. So energy weapons would melt them. So the dynamic would be energy weapons are weak to shields. They take a lot of shields to go down, but ballistic weapons are penetrate shields, but then they bounce off of armor. So you need kind of a combination of both of them to be able to get through. So if you're shooting someone's shields, you might want to use something like distortion weapons, which are designed specifically to take down shields. And then if they have armor, shoot them with energy weapons. But if they don't have armor, then you can shoot them with ballistic weapons. It's that kind of balance. Do I think it'll stop light fighter dominance? Possibly. But the other thing you have to remember is that we're currently working in a fish bubble compared to the wider universe. You're likely not going to be doing a ton of missions that are high payout missions for combat in Stanton in the future. Most of that stuff is going to be moved to Pyro, which means that if you really want to make the big missions, the big bucks, and have the least amount of consequences, then going to Pyro, especially in terms of like the overall locations of Stanton, then going to Pyro will be where you need to go. But lighter fighters have very low fuel. So they need to have a lot of support network to function out there. So there's a lot of aspects to the game which just aren't really introduced yet, which will limit light fighters' ability. Yeah, I do intermittent fasting. I just haven't been doing it routinely enough. It's an issue of intermittent fasting, calorie counting, exercise, and variation of exercise is all it is, which I just gotta kind of work into my time. Gonna hope we get Reputation 2.0 version 2 in 3.19. I'm kind of shocked it's not in 3.18. It didn't seem to be in the cards. Even CIG said they weren't really planning on doing more in-depth stuff, more just kind of light touch stuff. And that just kind of didn't seem to be priorities the thing to get switched over to those other things. I'd hope to see stuff like that. If 3.19 was purely a expansion of what we had in 3.18 in terms of more stability and other things, it would be a good patch, but adding new things would be good as well. Well, the number for you. I hope you see a smaller Paul in the this is gone. You're never going to see a smaller Paul. You'll just see a thinner Paul. I am not short. I am like 6'1", 6'2". So I'm pretty tall. I am the tallest person. I am the tallest Shelly. We'll do it that way. My dad is the tallest Shelly of his generation, but he's 5'11". And then his father is like 5'10". It's like a slow buildup. It's like my dad's 5'11", and then me, it's like 6'2". 6'2" is the average Australian. Even the Nerds Hero Chads. I have seen some short Australians, Scott. Low carb tortilla pizza can be good for keeping the weight off. I've done the low carb stuff. I still kind of do it a little bit, but I found that just calorie counting is a better overall skill than just straight up keto stuff. I've been on keto. It works, but you can't really nonstop eat. There is definitely a limit to what you need to do. My wife's dad was 6'7". She's 6'3". Hey. Remember, intermittent fasting is not a diet, it's a lifestyle. Yeah. It's about not eating. Which I tend to do anyways, but the key is the length that I need to do it is not what I've been doing. That's only 25 pounds. Nice. Do you think we'll see any work on the Odyssey this year? No, probably not. The Odyssey just seems to be in the back burner. I quite literally married up. As a former 2 times a day gym nut, drink lots of water, eat well, sleep less, eat well and less, and move a lot more, you win. Yeah, that's effectively what it is. Move more, drink more water, and eat less. Eat less, move more. Hey, Elwalk, I missed the constant attention you shower upon me. My overall point, though, when it comes to 2023, is that I think a lot of people are putting undue emphasis on things that they don't know about yet. We need to have more information on what CIG plans to do post 3.18 before we can really sit there and say Star Citizen is not going to be... This year sucks for Star Citizen because 3.18 or because 4.0 is not coming out until at the earliest the end of this year. Because, like, putting so much emphasis on server meshing is a mistake. Server meshing is not the golden key to making the game fun or playable. There's a lot of other things that need to be put in there. For instance, just having server meshing and 4.0 and, like, say, Pyro won't make desync better. Optimizations will make desync better. Having Pyro and 4.0 won't give you a solid 60 FPS. Gen 12 and Vulkan and optimizations on those will give you a solid 60 FPS. Those things won't inherently make gameplay happen. They have to add gameplay. And we just don't have enough information directly on what's going to be done this year like we've had in previous years, because I think this is the first year we've had a completely clean slate without any predictions. And the CIG doesn't add anything to the release list or to the release view anymore at all. That was, as of last year, they stopped doing that. So we just really don't have an idea what's going forward because CIG stopped telling us. So it's hard to really judge exactly what's going to happen other than what Chris Roberts has vaguely said. So we'll know more when 3.18 is released. I don't think we're going to get personal hangers, but I think we're getting persistent hangers. Do we know anything about 3.19? Is it building binding bounties? We don't know. There's nothing mentioned. The only thing that I can almost guarantee you is going to be in 3.19 is the new Arena Commander map, which is Jericho Station. So when do you think CIG will crack and add yet another light fighter? And what do you think it'll be? RSI, it'll be an RSI ship, and it will be it'll have one gun, but it'll be a size 4. We already had the Scorpius, the Orion, the RSI Leo. That's what it'll be called. It'll be called the RSI Leo. They're going to be working on a new roadmap this month as tradition. It is, but we won't even see the results of it. CIG will not tell us what's coming out until we get close to the actual end of it. If you're marrying today, well, let's just say there's a lot of crayons in the tray today. What? So, when do you think CIG will crack? Oh, that's the other one. Damn, I wish I could finally use my Cuddy Blue this year. I mean, that's the idea. CIG has said that they want to do bounty hunting, kind of tracking, capturing and returning bounties, NPCs and players this year. But it's Chris Roberts, and this was December, so fuck knows if we're actually going to get that. When is ISC back? My guess is end of January. Should be a size 5. Size 4 is weak place right now, in my humble opinion. So a single size 5 gun on a light fighter. Board was saying he thinks open PPU might be next week. Nope, I think board is high. We're gonna get a wave 2 next week, but not open PTU. I think we'll get the earliest open PTU will be the 14th or 20th. Somewhere between the 14th and the 20th would be when we first get open PTU. Then I'd expect it to be in open PTU for at least a month because there's still tons of bugs. So many problems they're going to have to tackle. So, yeah, actually, I think Wave 2 will be 13th. I think the earliest we'll see the open PTU is the 20th. So the earliest it'll go live is February, 10th, middle of February. Why would they even bother with the Wave 2 at this point? Because they seem to be very hesitant to send it out to the wider audience because they're afraid it's going to break the entire back end. They want to have stress testing, step up stress testing, and they do this with the major patches. They did it with 2.0, they did it with 3.0, they'll do it with 3.18, they'll do it with 4.0. Well, they'll do gradual increases in terms of numbers of people, server accounts, and then overall. Necking with Julian Anderson when? Mark Hamill second basing incoming? No, sadly no. Wave 2 is liable to be 100 people. Could be. Isn't it still only US servers? I don't know. It might be. I don't think we'll see any kind of expansion until next week. The majority of people will be back to work probably by next Wednesday. I think that would be the not the majority, but enough people for them to continue to work on it. They did have an update recently. They had an update today, I believe, for PTU, but it seemed like more of a minor stuff. They need to fix the MFD bug before OpenPTU. Yeah, there's a lot of bugs that they need to fix before they get to OpenPTU. At least try to. I guess they'll flesh out more salvage a bit more in 2023. We can hope. So, effectively, my expectations for 318 is I don't expect it till March. 318 full VOT live version not until March, and I doubt we're going to see 319 in March or April when the Q1 first comes in. I think we're going to see 318. CIG just will throw in the towel and say 318 is their Q1 version, and they'll have like a 318.1 that they'll release, which will be kind of their Invictus version, because I believe Q2 is after Invictus. Well, it could be before Invictus. I don't know. Usually it drops in like May or June. That's, I think, when Invictus happens. So. You saw Salty Mike play on the EU service this morning? Okay. Then they may have increased it a little bit. So how will munching work? Will the interiors of the ships of stuff? So effectively, the way that the process is going to work is that you will strip the hulls, and then you will break up the hull pieces into their own pieces, and then you will consume that piece whole. So anything on that section, be it cargo grids, seats, components, will go with that section, and then you will munch that section. I know you're salty, Aimless, but Wave 2 is mostly for stress testing. That's all that PTU really is. It is some like improvements here and there, because they definitely need to, like, they'll take in some reports and stuff like that, but it's almost entirely stress testing. That's what what PTU is designed for. And the reason why they have the different waves is more to do with how much they want to test. Usually they'll go from wave 1 to just open PTU pretty quickly, or go to wave 2 and then open PTU. But with stuff like this, it's about stress testing. They're not going to necessarily go straight to open PTU. One thing I've noticed is there doesn't seem to be a very aggressive cleanup protocol inside landing zones like I thought there would be. In fact, they've almost entirely removed the ability, like, because if you know right now in 3.17.4, you can reach a point where it's like the local area is too cluttered. You can't drop your items. They've removed that in the latest patch for 3.18. So they're trying to test to see how much clutter you can drop. Just because you can't use an issue council doesn't mean you aren't stress testing. Stress testing is just playing the game. That's all it is. Because while ETF does a lot of internal testing, there are not that many people who do ETF. Probably more than they have in terms of QA, but much less than the average numbers of people. And Wave 1 is more than ETF. Wave 2 is more than Wave 1, and Open TTU is more than Wave 2, and then Live is much more than Open PTU. They get the telemetry, they understand what breaks, what doesn't, how many people you can throw at a certain thing. No permabans today, no. Whistler's Crypt is a fun place to see the effects of PES, yeah. Thank you for watching there, Strange D's. Hopefully you can see this. I say we get Aaron Halo this year. I really hope we do. I'm not counting on it, though. Not counting on the Aaron Halo. A lot of bugs don't happen until you have a ton of people on it. Just straight up. What is Aaron Halo? So Aaron Halo is the asteroid belt that is between the second and third planets in the Stanton system. So between Crusader and ArcCorp, there's this massive ring of asteroids. That asteroid ring is very, very thick, and it apparently prevents a lot of travel to go through it. Right now, we don't really see that, but the idea was that you would have to go to these Aaron Halo stations, which are these places where they have physically built stations, which are kind of like canals, where they cleared out the asteroids from the region to make it easier for you to travel from point A to point B. So it's faster for you to travel to these stations and then through the stations and then out than it is to try to travel up or down around the entire area of the belt. The Aaron Halo is in game right now. There's a way you can cut your engines off at a certain point and find yourself at the Aaron Halo. But there is no like point of interest. You don't see it on your map. You have to know the general area of where it's located. Did someone tell Vertigo that CIG is doing clutter tests? No, but you should. It'd be funny. Yeah, it's a great place for Quantanium mining. The Aaron Halo is. It takes practice to drop out in the Halo. The miners all seem to be able to do it at the drop of the hat. They've had a lot of practice. But I think we definitely need the new map to be able to do it in the future. And the new modes. And I think those things will be happening around 4.0. So this is probably where the Orion owners will be hanging out. At least if they're in Stanton, yeah. All right, y'all. I'm going to call it a night. It's getting on 3 hours here. Been streaming more than I was planning on it. This has been fun. I'll be back on Saturday, my birthday, 36. But I'll be back on Saturday with Naz and Darionator, and we'll be talking expectations for 2023. Will it be a dead year or not? Their thoughts. What should we expect? What should we hope for? That kind of thing. And so that'll be around 6 p.m. Eastern. So come join us for that one. But I am mostly taking the rest of this week off. I will be back with regular streaming next week. I think I'm going to start streaming on Wednesdays if I can, where I'm going to do a little bit of streaming. Probably not this coming Wednesday, maybe later on. But I will be doing at least next Thursday. We'll be doing this. You can come join us live if you're watching this after the fact. Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Where we stream, kind of talk out and just do this whole thing. Then we'll be back Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you like to watch the Astro Historian stuff, the next video for the Astro Historian is going to be on the Gladiator. That'll come out on Saturday. And then there'll be another video, which I'm going to do, which is the process of joining the UEE military. That will not be available to the average viewer until February. I'm also going to do one on... the naval doctrine of the UEE, how the naval doctrine kind of functions, and then some other stuff like that. Like I'm gonna do one on like the family dynamics of the different alien species. I'm gonna name it something cheeky, like how do every alien species get it on? or something like that. I'll probably do stuff like that, small things like how do the alien species think of each other, what do alien species think of humanity, that kind of stuff. All those sorts of things. But a lot of that is going to be exclusively for members on the Astro Historian and or Patreons, and it'll be available to everybody else in February, because YouTube is a desert in January. I'm also going to start doing at least 1 or 2 videos specifically for Patreons and Patreons for members here on the AstroPub Live, which will be released later down the line as well. So, thank you all so much. Paul, you're seriously a machine, bro. Bravo on 7 to 8 hours of solid Star Citizen content. Yeah, because I was doing the info runners earlier. But yes, we'll definitely be doing a lot of stuff. So if you want to catch all of those video content, please do think about supporting me here on Twitch, supporting me on YouTube as becoming a member, or supporting me on the Astro Historians Patreon or member. Well, all of that is great. Otherwise, I'd like to have you. I'm glad to have you all here. Glad to have you watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button or hit that follow button here on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button if you're watching this on YouTube. That really does help a lot because that engages with the content. And if you're engaging with the content, that means it's spreading it around. But for now, I want to hear your thoughts, your questions down below. Do you think 2023 is going to be a dead year or not? Explain why. If you watch this on YouTube, I'd love to hear your own thoughts. I'll do my best to respond to that. And thank you for watching. I love your all's faces. And remember, as I always say, hope to see you someday in the black.